Good morning, everyone. It is July the 10th, 2024, Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m. I am Don Parnell, and this is another session of Daily Spiritual Medicine coming to you from Dayton, Ohio on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If things work right on my computer, I've been having a little trouble, so I'm working on that, and I hope that everything goes well. We have been discussing on a, a thought of realities that we must reassess today. And yesterday we took the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. And today I want to stay on the same subject, and we will discuss another parable that Jesus gave to us. It's a parable that fits our lives. And as I said yesterday, every day we find out that every parable that Jesus spoke of, almost every single parable, he is showing us duality of our nature, the things that are in us, and he is teaching us a lesson on how to handle this duality and come out as one person, brand new creation in Christ. So today we'll talk on realities we must reassess today, part 2. And yesterday we looked at Luke the 16th chapter, and today we're going to look at Luke the 18th chapter. And verse 9, Jesus had been speaking with the people, and Luke wrote and told us that he spoke this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. And notice that there were two parts to this. Number one, they trusted in themselves, and the second thing was and despised others. So they had let that trust in them turn to feelings that they were better than everyone else. Listen to what Jesus says. He says, two men, remember yesterday, the rich man and Lazarus, and we found out that that was not two physical men, but what it is there were two attributes that lay within us, and those attributes, Lazarus was at the gate, or Lazarus was waiting to express himself, and the rich man was the Lazarus being the human spirit, or being the humanity, and the rich man being theophany. Well, we're going to look at this again. He says, two men went up to the temple to pray. Now, we know that we've been taught and understand that this body is the temple of the Lord. So these two men, it doesn't say they went up to two temples to pray. They went up to the temple, two again on the inside. If you go over there and read Job, the first chapter, which we'll do one day, you will find out that Job and Satan too went up before the Lord. And it wasn't two entities, it wasn't two bodies, it wasn't two persons. It was one person, Job, and Job was Christ. Job was Satan, and they went up before the Lord, raised up an attribute, began to manifest themselves. That's what's going on right here. These two men went up to the temple to pray. Or within us, we have two attributes, and those two attributes are theophany and humanity. We are expressing both. And as we are expressing both, we are expressing them within our temple, our person, our body. This is the temple of the Lord. This is where the Lord moves. The temple's where the Lord speaks from. You remember in Leviticus, the first chapter, after Israel had built their temple in the wilderness, or their tent, their tabernacle in the wilderness, after they had built that tabernacle, there in the first chapter of Leviticus, it says, and the tabernacle was complete, the temple was done. They had set it up exactly like it was supposed to be from the heavenlies. And it said that the Lord filled the tabernacle, the pillar of fire filled the tabernacle, entered into it. And it said that the Lord spoke and said, if you want to hear from me, I will speak from this tabernacle. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about, is the Lord has filled this temple. And if you want to hear from the Lord, then you must understand that he's going to speak from the temple. He's not going to speak outside the temple. He's not going to speak from Sinai anymore. He's not going to speak from here or there. He's not going to do any of those things. He is going to speak from the temple. If you want to hear the Lord, go up in the temple to pray. Rise up, meditate, give yourself to the Lord, and understand what's going on for you. Now, these two men went up in the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. So we see again, there's two, one of them in all of the law, in living presumptuously, and everything is just righteous and holy and pure. See, look, the Pharisee stood in the temple and prayed thus with himself, God, I thank thee that I am not as other men, and the way that they are, extortioners and unjust and adulterers, or even as this publican. So he looks over and says, I am not like him. But it's the same person in the same temple, and this person is who? Who for years and years and years, decades and centuries and millennia, who is it that kept saying, I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, even as this publican. I'm not like them. I am different, and I am better. I have not lowered myself to that, which is what you must do if you want to enter into humanity and learn from it, is bring yourself into the realization of what works in the temple. What works in this temple? When you find what works in the temple, then you begin to work in that manner and in that season. So we see this now. The Pharisee prayed and he said, I fast twice a week and I give tithes of all that I possess. Here's this theophany. And it's saying, I do all the right things. I am the word. I am, on and on and on. This Pharisee, this person within you, this attribute lying within the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is an attribute which you must take control of, and you must understand this. And the publican standing afar off, would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Be merciful to me, a man that has missed the mark. without your love and without your protection and without you moving in my temple to control this thing that wants me to think that I'm better than everyone else. I read a book one time and some time back, and it was by C.W. Lewis, and it's called Screw Tapes. And there was a chief um, demon, so to speak, and he was training younger demons of how to deceive people, how to take people's temple over, and he was teaching, and one of the demons come back and said, I can't seem to get to this person. I do everything I can to make them believe that they are no good, they're not good enough, they're not this and that. And Screw Tape said, "Oh, you don't understand. Don't do that. He's beyond that. He needs to be a person who sits and looks at others and thinks he's better." And so he went back and began to do those things and began to talk in the person's mind. And the person got to where they said, "I don't need to be around people. I don't need to love people. I don't need to do any of these things because people are no good. People are are constantly, they're not good enough. They're living in filth. They're living like the world. I got to separate myself from them." And what it does, it drives you to the other side. Well, this publican, he's in here in the temple and humbles himself, smotes upon his breast, "Be merciful unto me, I have missed the mark." Every one of us have to say that. We have missed the mark. I'm not a sinner now. I don't miss the mark, so to speak. I have hit the target. I understand who I am. And if something goes on, I understand it's for a lesson. But here we're talking about these two in the temple of the Lord, one and the other. And he said, "I tell you, this man," this is Jesus talking, and he tells the people, "I tell you, this man, this publican, went down to his house. He entered into the temple of the Lord, came up in the frequencies, and began to say, 'Hey, I have these issues. I have vanity. I have weakness. Remember, Paul said, I am made strong through my weaknesses." So we see that this person began to speak from the temple saying, "I have these things in my life. I want you to understand that." And then move on in life. Go back down to your house, move back down, and when you begin to live in that daily life, Jesus says this person, when he went back down to his house, was justified rather than the other. "For everyone that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humble himself shall be exalted." So we can see that again in this day, the theophany is not the one being exalted. And it's because it stood in a place where that it had no sin, had no issues. It was holy, it was pure, it was righteous, it had all of these things. And it stood when it came into the temple and put on flesh, it began to talk that way without taking on the experience of Lazarus, without taking on the experience of the publican. And we now understand that these two have become one, and we're taking on and understanding the experience that we are having. And in so doing, we keep our heads humbled, we keep ourselves understanding, we accept, we do all of these things that we can to love one another, and in so doing, we're not missing the mark. This man went down to his house, moved up in frequency, talked with the spirit in the temple, and then moved back down to his house, a justified man. That's where we're at. The human and humanity is the one in the spotlight now. It's the one that the Spirit says, I will bless that. I love that. I understand that. And He will bless it and move it forward in your life. Don't be the Pharisee. Don't be the theophany that says, I came here to make you the Word. Don't do that. Say, I came here to adjust and the twain become one flesh so I can live in this earth throughout eternity, enjoying what I have. Love bless you, and I will see you Friday morning.